My name is Adeshewa. I'm a very beautiful woman with a perfect body. Everything about me seemed perfect. I'm a graduate and working at a big company. The only problem I had was that I was single. I wasn't in any relationship. I was 32 years old. It wasn't that I didn't meet men, but none of them lasted. They didn't love me. Except Haruna. Speaking of Haruna, he had been asking me out for over 7 years, but I kept turning him down. He was rich, nice, and trustworthy, but I didn't like him because he was too ugly for my taste. I'm beautiful and should marry a handsome man, not an ugly one. Adeshewa, 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 my mom called my name. Yes, Mom, I'm listening, I said. You know I won't deceive you, she said. Of course, I nodded. Okay, who's getting married tomorrow? She asked. My younger sister, Janeba. She's the one getting married, I replied. Yes, your younger sister, not your older sister. Aren't you ashamed, Adeshewa? Your 2 younger sisters are already married, and the 3rd one is getting married tomorrow. And here you are, not even thinking about your life. You're just trying on the dress you'll wear tomorrow. Aren't you embarrassed? She said angrily. But Mom, it's not like I want to stay unmarried. The guys I meet aren't serious about marriage. They just want to play around, I said. So, there's no one who's serious about marriage? She asked suspiciously. No, Mom, they're not serious, I replied. What about Haruna? She asked. Mom, I've told you so many times. Stop talking about Haruna. I'm not interested. He's not handsome. Don't you see how ugly he is? I said, frowning. Ha! You're being so foolish. You've been rejecting him just because he's ugly. You young people today. So you only care about looks, not his heart? As if you're so beautiful. Miss Nigeria, she said, scoffing. Mom, you know I'm beautiful. You gave birth to a beautiful daughter, I teased. Beautiful, but without a husband. Even those ugly girls are married and have children with their husbands. Keep looking for your handsome man until you stop menstruating. Until you turn into an old maid, that's when you'll understand, she said angrily as she stood up and walked out. Was it my fault? Shouldn't I choose a man who suits me? The wedding venue was bustling with joy and excitement. Everything seemed perfect, the decorations, the music, and the people. I watched my younger sister and her husband standing together at the altar, a picture-perfect couple. They looked so good together, almost like they were made for each other. My sister was stunning in her white dress, and her husband was just as handsome. I couldn't help but think to myself, their children will be beautiful. As I stood there, lost in thought, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw Haruna, standing there with a broad smile on his face. Adeshewa, what's on your mind? He asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. Oh, I see you're here, I said, trying to sound indifferent, not wanting to engage in a conversation with him. Yes, sweetheart, he said, calling me by a pet name I hated hearing from him. The way he said it with his broken teeth irritated me, but I kept my feelings hidden behind a forced smile. My daughter-in-law, so you're here with your husband? I heard a familiar voice behind Haruna. It was his mother, smiling brightly at me. She had been looking for me, and now that she found me, she wasted no time in talking about what was always on her mind. Husband? Daughter-in-law? I thought, disgusted by the mere suggestion. I silently prayed. I reject this in Jesus' name. I will never be your daughter-in-law. Holy Ghost fire. Ha! Good afternoon, Ma, I said, forcing another fake smile as she looked at me, completely unaware of what I was really thinking. Good afternoon, my dear. Look at you, attending your sister's wedding today. But soon, it'll be your turn. Please, you and my son need to hurry up. I can't wait to carry my grandchild, she said, beaming with excitement. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Does this woman seriously think I'll marry her son? If she had a daughter like me, so beautiful, would she want her to marry someone who looks like Haruna? I thought, but I kept my expression polite and smiling. Okay, Ma, I said, trying to keep the conversation short, but she didn't seem to notice my discomfort. All right, I'll leave you 2 lovebirds to talk. I'm off to see the groom, she said cheerfully as she walked away. As soon as she was out of earshot, I muttered to myself, "Which in-law? Your wish will never come true." Once she was gone, I turned to Haruna, feeling irritated. "Haruna, did you lie to your mother and tell her that we're dating?" I asked, glaring at him. "Yes, of course," he replied casually, as if it wasn't a big deal. "Look, Adeshewa, I've been by your side for almost 8 years now. You know that everyone thinks we're a couple, so why don't we give it a shot? Maybe things will work out," he suggested, his voice hopeful. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. I had been clear with Haruna time and time again, but he just wouldn't take a hint. There was no way I could ever see him as anything more than a friend, and even that was stretching it. I wasn't interested in giving him a chance. Not now. Not ever. "Haruna, let me think about it," I said, hoping he would stop pressing me for an answer. "What's there to think about?" he asked, his voice filled with disappointment. "You've known me for 8 years, Adeshewa. 8 whole years. Every time I ask, you tell me you'll think about it. If you'd just said yes a long time ago, we could be married by now, with kids of our own. Please, Shewa, you're not getting any younger. Don't keep me waiting any longer," he said, his voice heavy with sadness. I couldn't tell him the real reason why I hadn't accepted him all these years. It was simple. He was too ugly for my liking. I wanted someone handsome, someone who matched my beauty. But I didn't say any of this out loud. I just kept it to myself, as I'd always done. "I'll really think about it this time," I lied, hoping to end the conversation. "Okay," he said, his face lighting up with hope again. "Please, I'll be waiting for your answer. Bye for now," he said as he waved and walked away, leaving me standing there with my thoughts. I knew he was hoping for a positive answer, but deep down, I knew nothing would ever change. Haruna just wasn't the man I wanted. "Sis Adeshewa, thank you so much for surprising me on my wedding day. I really appreciate it," my younger sister Jeneba said. "That's what family is for, dear. No need to thank me. It was something I had to do," I replied with a smile. "But sis, there's something important I need to talk to you about," she said, sounding a bit serious. "What is it?" I asked. "It's about Haruna. Sis, I ran into him at the shopping mall last week, and he told me you promised to give him an answer, but you still haven't. It's been over a month now. Sis, this guy really loves you. Please give him a chance. I'm just being honest. You're getting older," she said gently. "Oh, great. Very good. So, you came here to insult me, huh? You're saying I'm old and single? You just came in here to mock me, right?" I said, clapping my hands sarcastically. "No, sis, that's not what I meant. I'm only saying you should give Haruna a chance," she explained quickly. "Okay, now I understand. Let me ask you a question. If your husband was as ugly as Haruna, would you have married him?" I asked, glaring at her. "No, I mean, yes, sis. Look, being handsome or beautiful doesn't really matter. What matters is if he loves you," she said, trying to defend herself. "Jeneba, you're just wasting your time. This girl will never listen," my mom said as she walked into the room. "But Mom," I started. What? Listen, Adeshewa, you are going to marry Haruna whether you like it or not. That boy truly loves you, but you're too blind to see it. Don't worry, I'll be your eyes. I'll make sure you marry him," she said before walking out. "Sis, Adeshewa," Jeneba tried to say, but I cut her off. "Please go back to your husband's house. Don't stand here giving me advice," I said, hissing in frustration. "Sis, don't worry, I'll go to my husband's house. But when are you going to go to yours?" she teased as she ran out of the room. "Jeneba, don't let me catch you. I better not see you in this house again," I shouted, angry. "Yes, sis. Go to your own husband's house. You're sitting in another woman's husband's house," she yelled from outside. "If I caught that girl, her husband wouldn't recognize her again." "Mom, what are we eating tonight?" I asked as I hugged my mom. But she moved away from me. Some people are still in their father's house, asking what they'll eat. They won't get married and cook for their own husbands, she began to sing sarcastically. I decided to walk away. I wasn't in the mood for her drama. The next morning, I greeted her. "Good morning, Mom." But she stayed silent and ignored me. Dad, I've been greeting Mom for 2 weeks now and she still won't answer me, I said. But even my dad stayed quiet. Why was everyone acting strange in this house? I left for work without anyone saying a word to me. Tahiru, open the gate, I shouted at our gate man. Madam, your mom said I shouldn't open the gate for you, and that you should open it yourself, Tahiru said, looking down. My mom said what? Are you stupid? I yelled angrily. Hey, don't shout at that boy. If you want to shout, go shout in your husband's house, okay? My mom said as she came outside. Tahiru, don't listen to her. By the way, how old is your wife? She asked, turning to Tahiru. Big madam, my wife is 20 years old, he said, smiling. Adeshewa, can you see your life? A 20-year-old girl is already married, she said. We've even had 2 kids, Tahiru added, still smiling. I thought, this Tahiru must be crazy. Mom, we'll talk when I get back. I'm late for work, I said, hurrying to leave. All you ever know is work, 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 she shouted after me, but I ignored her and drove off. At work, my colleague and friend Kande noticed something was wrong. Adeshewa, what's on your mind? Kande, I'm not happy. My mom has been treating me so badly lately, I said sadly. What's going on? Feel free to tell me, she said kindly. So I told her everything, what had been happening at home and about Haruna. Look, Adeshewa, as your friend, I have to give you some advice. I really think Haruna loves you. Please give him a chance. Just date him and see if things work out. At least try. Then your mom will stop bothering you, she suggested. Okay, I'll think about it. Thanks, sweetheart, I said, smiling. You're always welcome, dear, she said, smiling back as she walked away. A few weeks later, I was fed up with my mom's behavior, so I decided to give Haruna a chance. He was so happy when I agreed. Haruna turned out to be a very caring person. He would call me all the time, checking if I was okay. He was sweet, except for his face. One day, his mom invited me to their home, so I went. When I arrived, I met his younger sister in the living room. Sis Adeshewa, my brother's daily crush. How have you been? She asked, giving me a big hug. I'm fine. Look at you, you're even more beautiful now, I said with a smile. Come on, Sis Adeshewa. We all know you're the most beautiful one here. If I didn't know my brother, I would have thought he put a spell on you. I never imagined you'd date him, she said, laughing. I smiled, but in my mind I thought, so you know your brother isn't up to my standards? That he's ugly? Haruna's mom and I talked about marriage. She really liked me, and I had already agreed to be her daughter-in-law because I felt I had no other choice. My mom's attitude toward me also changed. She started laughing and chatting with me again. Things between Haruna and me were going smoothly. Our families had met, and they set the date for the wedding. The introduction, engagement, and wedding were all planned to happen on the same day. It seemed like my parents were in a hurry to get me out of their house. One day, Haruna and I went out on a date. Good evening, sir, Haruna called out as he saw a man walking by. Good evening, Haruna. How are you? The man asked with a smile. I'm fine. Dear, meet my boss, Haruna said as he introduced me to his boss. Is this your fiancé? His boss asked, surprised by the mismatch between Haruna and me. Yes, sir, Haruna replied, smiling. Don't be so shocked. Even I'm surprised I became his fiancé, I thought to myself. Days and weeks passed, and finally, our wedding day arrived. It was a beautiful day. The most surprising part was seeing my mom crying, even though she was the one who had practically pushed me out of the house because of marriage. Our marriage was peaceful, even though I didn't love Haruna. He knew it, but he was always kind and gentle with me. One day, I heard Haruna shouting over the phone, Please stop calling this number. If you don't, I'll block it just like I blocked the last one, he said angrily before hanging up. Haruna, what's wrong? Why are you so upset? I asked, curious. Oh, babe, I'm sorry. It's just this annoying girl who keeps bothering me. She wants to be in a relationship with me even though I told her I'm married. Can you believe she even got my number from my friend? He said, looking frustrated. Some girls really have no taste at all, I thought. Imagine a silly girl chasing after my husband. Babe, what are you thinking about? Are you jealous? Haruna asked, smiling. Jealous? Of you? Never. If you were handsome, maybe I would be, I said, teasing him. 4 months had passed since we got married and everything seemed fine, except for one thing. I didn't do any housework. I didn't cook, clean, or do anything at home except go to work. Haruna was always the one cooking, and our housemaid handled the cleaning. I only allowed the housemaid to come in the evenings when I was home. I didn't want anything to happen between her and Haruna. It's not like I loved him, but I didn't want him to get her pregnant. She wasn't attractive either, and I felt like I was saving their future children from looking terrible. Everything was going well until I met Sidu, a very handsome guy, at a shopping mall one day. "Hi, I must say, you're a very beautiful woman," he said. "My name is Sidu. What's yours?" he asked, smiling. "I'm Adeshewa," I replied, smiling back. He reached out to shake my hand, and I shook his. "Oh, you're married," he said, noticing the ring on my finger. At that moment, I wished I wasn't married. "Yes, I am," I said, forcing a smile. "That's not a problem. We can still be friends. Can I have your number so we can talk more?" he asked, winking. I gave him my number, then walked to my car and drove away. After that, Sidu and I started talking regularly. We would call each other often. He was a nice guy, and we were just friends, nothing more. We would chat, laugh, and talk about many things. One day, after I finished a call with Sidu, Haruna asked, "Adeshewa, who have you been talking to on the phone?" "His name is Sidu. He's my friend," I said, smiling. "Babe, I'm not jealous, but you should limit how much you talk to him. I've noticed that every time your phone rings and it's him, you smile happily. You don't even smile like that for me." "You're smiling for another man," he said, sounding sad. "So, what are you trying to say?" I asked, facing him. "I'm just saying you should limit how much you talk to him," he replied. "Haruna, are you saying I can't have friends anymore? What's all this about? This isn't what you said when we were getting married. You told me I was free to do anything I wanted as long as I didn't cheat. He's just a friend, and now you're complaining," I said angrily. "Babe, I'm sorry. You can talk to anyone you like. I won't bother you again. Come, lie down so I can cuddle you," he said, smiling. "No, I won't come. You made me upset tonight," I said, pouting. "I already said I'm sorry. Please, babe, forgive me," he said, taking my hands. I forgave him, and we went to bed. If only I had listened to my husband's advice that night. "Adeshewa, your name is perfect for you. I have never seen a girl as beautiful as you," Sidu said with a smile. "That's not true. You're just joking," I said, feeling shy. "No, it's true. You're really beautiful. I wish you were my wife," he said sadly. "I wish you were my husband," I thought to myself. "Shewa, or are my eyes lying to me?" someone suddenly shouted. I looked up, and it was my mom. "What are you doing here, eating with another man?" she asked angrily. "Mom, he's just my friend Sidu," I explained. "Good afternoon, Mommy," Sidu said with a smile. "Save your greetings. I know my children except this one, who has no sense," she said, upset. "Mom, please, he's just a friend," I said, frustrated. "Oh, just a friend? What if someone from your husband's family sees you here, eating with another man? What will they say?" she asked. "I don't care what they say," I replied. But my mom grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. "Mom, let go of my hand. I'm not a child," I said angrily. "But you're acting like one, Shewa. Don't you know you're married?" she said. "Mom, so if I'm married, I can't talk to any man?" I asked, looking at her. "No, dear. You can talk to men, but sitting and laughing with them in a restaurant is not good. I trust you, but people love to gossip. It can cause trouble for your marriage," she said, holding my hand. "Okay, Mom, I understand." "Let me go say goodbye to Sidu," I said, trying to go back inside. But my mom stopped me. "Don't worry, I'll say goodbye for you. I don't feel good about that boy. Please, stop talking to him so much. I'll bring your bag. Stay here," she said, and went back into the restaurant. This mom of mine, her drama is too much, I thought. "Okay, Mom," I replied, and that's how my date with Sidu ended, thanks to my mom. I continued seeing Sidu, even though my mom and husband both told me to stop. I didn't care at all. I wasn't going to leave him. I started acting badly towards my husband. I was rude, disrespectful, and I tried to make him angry so he would fight with me. My hope was that he would divorce me, and then I could be with Sidu. One day I came up with a plan to speed things up. "Maimuna, come here," I called out loudly. "Yes, Ma," she said, quickly kneeling in front of me. "I need you to do something for me, and you must do it," I said seriously. "What is it, Ma?" she asked, looking nervous. "I want you to seduce my husband," I said with a smile on my face. "What? Madam, no, I can't do that. God forbid," she shouted, shocked by what I had asked her to do. "Are you stupid? I told you to do something and you're saying no? Are you out of your mind?" I yelled angrily. "Yes, Ma. No, Ma, I can't do it. Me and Oga? That's impossible," she cried. "Maimuna, if you don't do this when my husband comes home, I will fire you," I threatened. "Please, madam, I'll do it. Just don't fire me," she begged, clearly scared. "Good. I'm going out now, but you must do it before I return." "I want to catch you two together," I said, smiling to myself. "If my husband sleeps with the maid and I catch them, I'll have a reason to divorce him. Then I'll be free to marry Sidu," I thought happily. "But how should I do it, madam?" Maimuna asked, still unsure. "Are you serious, Maimuna? You're a girl, aren't you? You should know how to seduce men. Haven't you seen those Yoruba movies where the maid seduces her Oga? Use the same tricks," I said, frustrated. "Okay, Ma," she said, trembling with fear. "Don't worry, if you do this, I'll give you 100,000 naira, I said with a grin. "Thank you, madam. Don't worry, I'll do it," she said, trying to sound brave. "Good girl," I said. Then I left the house. An hour later, I came back to the house, ready to catch them. But when I walked in, I heard someone shouting. "Are you crazy?" my husband Haruna yelled. I rushed inside, expecting to see them in bed. But instead, I found them both in the living room. Maimuna was kneeling on the floor, and Haruna was furious. "What nonsense! How could you come into my room naked?" Haruna shouted angrily. "Babe, what's wrong?" I asked, pretending I didn't know anything. "Babe, you won't believe what happened today. This dirty maid here, who was probably sent from some evil place to destroy marriages, tried to seduce me. After I got home from work, I went to our room to change my clothes, and she walked in naked trying to seduce me," he said, still shouting. "What?" I yelled, acting surprised. "Yes, babe, and the funniest part? She even said you told her to do it. Can you believe that? She must think I'm a fool," he said, laughing. "Haruna, she's telling the truth," I thought to myself, but I kept pretending. "Maimuna, are you mad? How could you try to seduce my husband?" I shouted, pretending to be angry with her. "But madam, you were the one who told me to," she started to say. "Told you what? What did I tell you?" I shouted again, cutting her off. "Babe, there's no need to shout. I don't want to see her in this house again," Haruna said firmly. Maimuna started crying and begging, but it didn't matter. Haruna's decision was final. And just like that, I got rid of the maid. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you," I said to my mother. "Tell me, Shua, I'm listening," she replied. "Mom, I'm tired of my marriage. I want a divorce," I said seriously. "God forbid. In Jesus' name, that won't happen. I reject that for you. After just 4 months of marriage? Are you even thinking straight?" she asked, clearly angry. "Mom, I'm serious. I'm really tired of this marriage. It's not like I ever truly loved him. You were the one who made me marry him. I'm not happy, Mom. I can't do this anymore," I explained. "Oh, so your father's village people are after you now? We prayed so hard for you to get married. And now, just 4 months later, you want a divorce? You must be losing your mind. When you said you wanted to talk, I thought you were pregnant. I was happy. I didn't know it was this nonsense you wanted to discuss. Let me tell you, Adeshewa, you cannot divorce that man. Over my dead body. Go home and cook for your husband," she said angrily, walking away. But I didn't care. I needed to divorce Haruna. My happiness was the most important thing. "Shewa, why do you look so sad today?" Sidu asked, gently holding my hand. "I'm not happy. No one cares about my happiness," I said sadly. "Babe, I care about your happiness. That's all that matters to me," he said. "I know, but I have to divorce Haruna so we can be together," I said, feeling down. "Shiwa, you're all I need. I don't care if you're married or not. What I know is that I love you and I care about you. Since you told me everything over the phone, I've been thinking about how to solve your problem," he said with a smile. "What's the solution?" I asked eagerly. "There's a herbalist in my village. I went to him and told him about your husband. He gave me some medicine. Once you use it, your husband will hate you and eventually divorce you. The love he has for you will turn into hate," Sidu said, smiling. "Ha, I don't want anything like that. No evil tricks or magic," I said, rejecting the idea. "Babe, listen, I love you. I can't share you with another man. I'm human too. This is the only way out. Use the medicine and your husband will hate you. Once he divorces you, we can get married. Adeshewa, you will be my beautiful wife, not his." "Think about it, Adeshewa. Think," he said, holding my hands. I didn't know what to do, but deep down I really wanted to be Sidu's wife. I finally decided to take the medicine from Sidu. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no other option. I wanted Haruna to hate me so that he would divorce me, and then I could be with Sidu. After I got the medicine, I was walking home when something strange happened. I met an old woman on the street. "Young lady, don't use that medicine on your husband. It's dangerous," the woman said, looking directly at me. I was shocked. How did she know what I was carrying? "Young lady, it's dangerous. Don't use it," she said again before walking away. I just stood there for a moment, surprised and confused. How could she know? But still, her warning didn't stop me. I needed to get rid of Haruna so I could be with Sidu. He was the love of my life, and nothing was going to stop me now. Later that night, I felt nervous. I knelt down and prayed, "God, if I shouldn't use the medicine, please give me a sign. Show me what to do." Just then, Haruna came into the room with a smile. "Babe, did you pray for me too?" he asked. "Yes, I did," I replied. "What did you pray for?" he asked, curious. In my mind, I was thinking, I prayed that you would leave me, but I couldn't say that. "I prayed that God gives you a long life with peace and happiness," I lied. "Amen, thank you, sweetie," he said, and hugged me. I smiled back, but I knew what I was planning. The next day was Saturday, and Haruna was at home with me. I decided it was time to use the medicine. I woke up early and went to the kitchen. I started cooking breakfast for him, which I never did. I wasn't used to cooking for Haruna, so I knew he would be surprised. "Babe, is this real? Are you actually cooking?" Haruna asked when he saw me in the kitchen. "Yes, babe. I want to change. I want to be a better wife and learn to love you more," I said, pretending to care. "Oh, babe, I've been waiting for this day for so long. Thank God you finally accepted me. I'm so happy," he said, smiling and hugging me. "Go and freshen up. I'll serve your food soon," I said, still smiling. He looked so happy, but I knew what I was about to do. Once he left the kitchen, I took out the medicine that Sidu gave me. I poured the potion into Haruna's food and mixed it well. My heart was beating fast, but I told myself this was the only way to be with Sidu. A few minutes later, Haruna came back and sat down at the dining table. "Babe, why didn't you dish out food for both of us?" he asked. "I already ate before you came down. I just want to watch you eat," I said with a sweet smile, trying not to seem nervous. "Okay, darling," he said and started eating. As he ate, he smiled and said, "Wow, Shiwa, this food is amazing. I didn't know you could cook like this." "Yes, darling, your wife is a great cook," I said proudly. We laughed together, but in my heart I was thinking, I hope this is the last time I cook for you. Soon I'll be cooking for Sidu. Haruna finished all the food. I watched him closely, waiting for the potion to work. Suddenly his face changed. He put his hand on his stomach and started coughing. "Haruna, are you okay?" I asked, trying to act like I didn't know what was happening. But then he started vomiting. I jumped up from my chair, scared. "Haruna, what's wrong?" I asked again, moving closer to him. But he didn't answer. He fell to the floor, rolling around in pain. His face looked pale and he was sweating. "Haruna, stop it. If this is a joke, it's not funny. I'm really scared," I shouted, shaking him. But it wasn't a joke. He kept vomiting, and then I saw blood. Haruna was vomiting blood. and I panicked. "Haruna, oh my God, what's happening?" I cried, not knowing what to do. The room felt like it was spinning. I didn't expect this. I just wanted him to hate me, not get sick like this. After Haruna started vomiting blood, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I quickly ran outside and called the gateman for help. "Tahiru, help me! We need to take Haruna to the hospital," I shouted. Tahiru rushed over and together we lifted Haruna into the car. He was so weak. I was shaking the whole time, feeling scared and guilty. God, please let Haruna survive. I prayed over and over as we drove to the hospital. When we arrived, the nurses rushed to us. They put Haruna on a stretcher and took him inside. I sat down in the waiting area, my heart pounding. I couldn't stop trembling. What had I done? All I could think was, please, God, don't let Haruna die. A few minutes later, the doctor came out of the ward. He looked around and asked, "Who brought the patient?" The nurse pointed at me. "I did," I said, standing up, my legs feeling weak. The doctor looked at me and shook his head. "How are you related to him?" he asked. "I'm his wife," I replied. "Please follow me," he said. I felt a sinking feeling in my chest as I followed him to his office. My hands were cold, and I didn't know what he was going to say. Once we were inside his office, the doctor looked at me sadly. "We did everything we could, ma'am. I'm sorry, but we lost him," he said gently. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Lost him? What do you mean, doctor? Is he okay? Does he need blood?" "I'm ready to donate," I said quickly, panic rising in my voice. "Ma'am, there's no need for blood." "I'm very sorry, but your husband is dead," the doctor said softly. I stood there, frozen. Haruna is dead? I couldn't believe it. Just an hour ago, we were talking and laughing. How could he be dead now? My mind refused to accept it. The doctor had to call Haruna's family using the emergency contact information I had filled out. I was still in shock, unable to think clearly. Soon, Haruna's family arrived at the hospital. The mourning started immediately. His family was devastated, and I couldn't stop crying. Was I the one who killed him? I started to wonder. I felt a heavy weight of guilt on my shoulders. What if the medicine Sidu gave me was poison? I didn't mean for Haruna to die. I just wanted him to hate me, not this. As I sat there crying, I noticed Haruna's younger sister glaring at me. She didn't say anything at first, but the way she looked at me made me feel even more afraid. Her eyes were full of suspicion. I avoided looking at her because I was too scared to meet her gaze. A week later, Haruna's family was preparing for his burial, but his younger sister refused to let them bury him right away. "We can't bury my brother yet. We need to know what killed him," she said, looking directly at me when she spoke. My heart dropped. Does she suspect me? I thought. The next day, I was at home, still mourning Haruna, when his younger sister suddenly showed up, with police officers. "Arrest her! She's the one who killed my brother!" she shouted as she pointed at me. The officers stepped forward and came into the house. "No, I didn't kill my husband. Sister-in-law, what are you talking about?" I cried, looking at her in shock. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. We have evidence that you killed your husband, so you need to come with us," one of the policemen said as he handcuffed me. My world started spinning. I couldn't believe this was happening. As they led me out of the house, I kept thinking, how did it come to this? At the police station, the officer sat across from me, her eyes focused on my face. "Why did you kill your husband?" she asked, watching me closely. "I've told you many times I didn't kill him." "I don't know how it happened," I replied, glaring at her in frustration. "Adeshewa, I've been gentle with you so far, but that's only because I'm being kind. You better confess now before I handle things differently," she said angrily. "What do you want me to say? You want me to admit that I killed my husband?" I asked. "Yes, just confess. You poisoned him. If you admit it now, I can help you," she said more gently, but I wasn't going to say anything, not until I saw Sidu. "Shewa, I know you're stubborn," another officer said as he entered the room. "Let me show you the evidence we have." He pulled out his phone and played a video. I watched in shock as I saw myself in the kitchen, adding something to Haruna's food. The video even showed the red cloth I used to wrap the potion. It continued, showing Haruna sitting at the dining table, eating, while I laughed and talked with him. "I don't think you need to see the rest. You know what happened after that," the officer said. "With this video and your maid's statement, there's no point in pretending anymore." "What did the maid say?" "Don't mind her. My husband fired her because she misbehaved," I said, trying to defend myself. "Do you think we're fools, Shiwa?" "We traced your account and found that you sent a large amount of money to the maid after she was fired. Something is definitely suspicious about that," the officer said, raising his eyebrows. "What about Sidu?" "Have you found him?" I asked impatiently. "No, we haven't. And I feel sorry for you because you're fooling yourself. The information you gave us about Sidu, it's all fake. He doesn't work at the bank, and he doesn't live in the area you mentioned," the officer said, glaring at me. "What? Sidu doesn't work at Union Bank? But I always picked him up in front of the bank. And the area where I used to drop him off. That was real, wasn't it?" Is the officer lying? I wondered. I couldn't believe that Sidu would lie about where he worked or lived. "Shiwa, do you know what your former maid told us?" the officer asked. "No. What did she say?" I replied. "She told us that you hated your husband. She even showed us a video of you telling her to seduce him. And when your husband sent her away, you pretended like you didn't know anything. Afterward, you sent her money. You need to confess, Shewa. The autopsy shows that your husband was poisoned, and the only thing he ate that day was food you cooked. So what do you want to say now?" the officer pressed. "As for this Sidu, the one you say gave you the medicine, he's nowhere to be found. Even the information you gave us about him is fake. So you're either lying or you made him up." "Maybe this Sidu doesn't even exist," the officer said, looking at me like I was crazy. "Sidu doesn't exist? This officer is foolish. Sidu is real. My mom even met him. She can prove it." But how did they get that video? There were no cameras in our house. Who gave the video to the maid and my sister-in-law? If the maid had this evidence, she would have used it to stop my husband from firing her, not now. "My daughter, look at how bad you look right now. Are they treating you badly?" my mom asked as she touched my hand during her visit to the prison. "Mom, I want to go home. They are torturing me. I can't stay here anymore," I cried. "My dear, next week is your court hearing. There's no way you can leave here before then," my mom said, shaking her head. "I warned you, didn't I? Look where your foolishness has brought you. Why did you kill your husband? I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence is clear. The only thing I can do for you now is get a lawyer. The lawyer will try to help with your case, but I'm ashamed of you and myself. I regret having a daughter like you. I can't even face your mother-in-law anymore. She doesn't want to see me. Everyone knows me as the mother of a murderer. Adeshewa, you've disgraced me," she said, tears rolling down her face. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was Sidu. Mom. Sidu deceived me," I said, crying. "Who is Sidu?" she asked, looking confused. "Mom, Sidu, you saw him. He's my friend, the man we were eating with at the restaurant that day. You came in, dragged me out, and warned me about him." "I didn't listen," I said, sobbing. "I've never seen you in a restaurant with any man since you got married, not to mention dragging you out. I've only ever seen you with your husband." "So what are you talking about?" my mom asked, staring at me. "Mom, have you forgotten? You came to the restaurant and saw me and Sidu eating together. You dragged me out and even went back in to get my bag," I insisted. "Heavens, are you imagining things? I never saw you in any restaurant, nor did I drag you out. If you're going to blame someone, at least make sure they're real. The policeman even said he doesn't think you're normal." "My dear, are you okay?" she asked, looking concerned. "What is Mom talking about? She definitely dragged me out that day and even insulted Sidu," I thought to myself, confused. "Time's up," the jailer said as he entered the room. "My daughter, I'll see you next week. Your dad has forbidden me from visiting you, but I snuck in today. The lawyer will visit you tomorrow. Please listen to him," she said, standing up and walking out. Later, the lawyer came to see me. Shewa, please stop talking about Sidu. There is no Sidu. The police have investigated everything, and there is no man by that name. The information you gave them about him was fake. Even your phone doesn't have any record of this Sidu you claim to have been chatting with. The places you said you went with him. They checked the CCTV footage. There's no sign of you or him. I think you made him up in your mind. Someone has to pay for what you did. Stop fooling yourself. I don't even know how to handle your case anymore, the lawyer said, shaking his head. I'm not making it up. Sidu is real. We even kissed. He's the one who gave me the potion. He said it would make my husband stop loving me. I didn't know it was poison, I insisted. Adeshewa, I'm tired. The prosecutor has already won this case. I'm just here to represent you, but all the evidence points to you. Keep lying about this imaginary boy, but you'll only bring yourself closer to being sentenced to death. The only thing that hurts me is the money your mom paid me. This case is impossible to win. You won't even tell me the truth so I can help you. Maybe we'll meet at the court, he said as he stood up to leave. I killed my husband because I didn't love him, I shouted suddenly. The lawyer stopped and turned around. If no one will believe me about Sidu, then I'll just give them the reason they want to hear. It was the day of my court hearing. I stood in the courtroom, feeling nervous and scared. My lord, with all the evidence and witnesses presented, it is clear that Adeshewa murdered her husband. However, the reason is still unknown, the prosecutor said, bowing before the judge. Do you have anything else to say? The judge asked my lawyer. My lord, I have nothing more to say, my lawyer replied, bowing before sitting down. The judge looked at me. With this evidence, it is clear that you, Adeshewa, are guilty of murdering your husband. I hereby sentence you to death by hanging, the judge announced. Tears streamed down my face. If only I had listened to my mother, I thought as I looked at her sitting in the courtroom. She was crying too, while my sister-in-law was smiling, clearly happy about the judgment. Then, to my shock, I saw Sidu sitting in the courtroom. He was looking at me with a mocking smile on his face. I was stunned. The officers dragged me out of the courtroom, and as I wanted to scream Sidu's name, I couldn't speak. My voice was gone. The officers pushed me into the van to take me back to prison. Later that day, the jailer came to my cell. Adeshewa, you have a visitor, he said. No, I don't want to see anyone, I replied, still feeling overwhelmed. That's how your mom came yesterday, and you refused to see her. You better see someone before you die. Tomorrow is your execution day, so this might be your last chance to see someone, he said. Who came to visit? I asked. I don't know his name exactly. I think he said it's James. Or wait, no, Sidu. Yes, his name is Sidu, the jailer said. Are you sure his name is Sidu? I asked, suddenly feeling anxious. Yes, I'm sure, he replied. I stood up as he escorted me to the visitors area. When I saw Sidu sitting there, I couldn't believe it. Sidu, is it really you? I asked, shocked. Yes, it's me. I just came to see you before you die, he said, smiling. You evil man. You turned me into a murderer. You gave me the medicine that killed my husband, I shouted angrily. Calm down, Sidu said with a smirk. Who's going to believe you anyway? Thank God you used that medicine on your husband, or I would have gone mad. So, thanks for that, he said, laughing. Gone mad? What do you mean? I asked, glaring at him. Yes. The herbalist who gave me the potion told me your husband was a very powerful man. The only way to kill him was through someone he loved. The herbalist also said that if your husband survived the poison, I would go mad. I accepted the risk because I trusted you to use it. I knew you would do anything for us to be together because you loved me. And don't blame me for giving you the poison. You were the one dumb enough to believe my lies and kill your husband, Sidu said, still laughing. But why, Sidu? Why did you want to kill my husband? I asked angrily. Haha, I knew you would ask that. But I won't satisfy your curiosity. The only thing I'll tell you is that your husband and I worked together before, and he killed my daughter, Sidu said with a grin. Killed your daughter? How? I asked, shocked. I told you I'm not going to give you all the answers. Maybe God will tell you when you get to heaven, but I doubt you're going there. Hell seems more likely for you. Anyway, I've got to go now, Sidu said as he stood up and left. I couldn't say anything. I was deep in thought. How did Haruna kill Sidu's daughter? What was the connection between them? The next day came too quickly. Tears rolled down my face as the officer tied the rope around my neck. I was shaking and crying, filled with regret. God, if only I could go back, I wouldn't have done what I did. I wouldn't have let Sidu use me like a pawn in his game. As the rope tightened, I started losing consciousness. But then I opened my eyes. I was lying in a bed, and I saw people around me dressed in white. Am I in heaven? I wondered. Did God forgive me? Adeshewa, are you awake? Someone said, staring at me. It was my husband, Haruna. Haruna is in heaven too? God is good, I thought to myself. So death didn't do us part after all. Doctor, she's woken up, Haruna called out as the doctor walked over. That's when I realized I wasn't in heaven. I was in a hospital. What happened to me? Why am I in the hospital? I asked, looking at Haruna and the doctor. Sweetheart, I don't know what happened to you. You slept for a long time without waking up. I even thought you were dead because you slept for 3 days straight. On the first day, I tried waking you up, but you didn't respond, so I rushed you to the hospital, Haruna explained, holding my hands. What was the last thing I did before I fell asleep? What happened that night? I asked, confused. Babe, you were praying. Do you remember? That night you were praying, and I asked you to pray for me. That's the night you fell asleep, and now, after 3 days, you've finally woken up, Haruna said. Madam, I don't know exactly what happened to you, the doctor added. At first, I thought you had sleep inertia or narcolepsy, but you were asleep for 3 days, so I thought you might have been brain dead, he explained, looking at me. They wouldn't know what happened because they didn't understand. I knew I had been in a trance. God put me into that deep sleep to reveal things to me, especially the truth about who Sidu really was. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. My mom came to visit me, and I was so happy to see her. God had given me a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. Once bitten, twice shy. But I was still curious. I wanted to know what the connection was between Sidu and my husband, Haruna, because I now realized Sidu had used me like a pawn to kill my husband. Adeshewa, how are you? I've been calling you for the past 3 days, but your phone hasn't been going through. What's wrong? Sidu asked when he called me on the phone. I'm fine. I was sick. I was even admitted to the hospital, but I was just discharged today, I said, keeping my voice calm. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry to hear that. So, does that mean you haven't used the medicine on your husband yet? He asked. No, I haven't, I replied casually. Adeshewa, you must use it today. It's already been 4 days. You need to use the medicine now, Sidu said, sounding impatient. Sidu, I told you I was sick. How can I use the medicine today? I asked, trying to stay calm. Please, Adeshewa, you must use it today. I can't wait to call you mine. I don't want to share you with anyone, he insisted. Liar, the Lord has exposed you. You just want me to use the poison so you don't go mad and my husband will die, I thought to myself. Okay, I'll prepare his food now and add the potion, I said, pretending to agree with him. Good. I trust you, darling. I can't wait to hear the good news, he said before hanging up. I didn't care what he said. I knew one thing for sure. I would never poison my husband. In fact, over the last 2 days, I had started to change. I no longer hated Haruna. We spent time together, and I was happy. I had even blocked Sidu's number, and I had almost forgotten about him. But then, one day, someone knocked on our gate. Our gateman wasn't around because he had gone to visit his sick mother in the village, so I had been the one opening and closing the gate. When I heard the knock, I went to open it, and to my shock, the person standing there was Sidu. Sidu, what are you doing here? I asked angrily when I saw him. Adeshewa, you didn't use the medicine on your husband. I know that. But there's no need to argue with you. The only person I want to see right now is your husband, Haruna, he said coldly. Why do you want to see my husband? I asked, even more angry now. Honey, who's there? Haruna called out as he walked towards us. Haruna, how are you? Sidu said with a fake smile as soon as he saw Haruna. Jesus. Umaru, is that you? It's been so long. How have you been? Haruna said, smiling. I was confused. How did my husband know Sidu? And who was Umaru? You know I'm not fine at all. Do I look fine? Sidu, now Umaru replied, looking at my husband with anger. Honey, this is my old friend Umaru, Haruna said, trying to avoid answering Umaru's question. No need for introductions. Your wife already knows me, Umaru said, turning to me. Don't you, Adeshewa? Dear, let's go inside. We can't talk out here, I said to my husband, trying to avoid Umaru's words. Once we sat down inside, Umaru spoke again. I came here today to confess everything I've done wrong. You've done nothing wrong. I'm the one who wronged you, and I deeply regret it, Haruna said. Honey, who is Umaru to you? And what did you do to him? I asked impatiently, wanting answers. Let me explain, Umaru interrupted. Your husband and I were once friends. In fact, I'm the one who got him his job. He used to work under me at the company. But one day, I was in desperate need of money, so I stole some money from the company. Your husband knew what I was going to use the money for. But when the company discovered the missing funds, they threatened to fire everyone if the money wasn't returned. Your husband knew I stole the money, but to save his job, he exposed me. The company took back the money, fired me, and promoted him. Umaru paused, tears filling his eyes. That money was for my daughter's heart surgery. She had heart failure, and I needed the money to save her life. But because of your husband, I lost my job and my daughter, Umaru said, bursting into tears. My daughter died. I couldn't afford the money for her surgery. Your husband knew that no bank would loan me money because I already owed them, and the company wouldn't help either. In the end, my daughter died and my wife left me, Umaru, Sidu said, crying. I was shocked to learn that my husband and Sidu had worked together. I'm so sorry, Umaru. I'm really sorry. You know that at that time I was poor too. If I had money, I would have helped you. That job was everything to me. I didn't mean to betray you. You helped me so much. But after it all happened, I searched for you everywhere, but I couldn't find you, Haruna said, looking sad. Let's forget about the past. The reason I came here today is to confess my sins so I can be free, Umaru said as he glanced at me. I felt nervous because I knew he would tell my husband everything. Then he started confessing. He told Haruna everything that had happened between us. But don't be shocked. I didn't touch your wife. She was very responsible and wouldn't let me get close to her. She kept saying she was still married. If she had used the medicine on you, you would be dead by now, and there would be no need for me to atone for my sins, he explained, looking at both of us. The strangest part is that I truly loved your wife. The time we spent together was the best, and I thought that if you died, I could marry her, Umaru continued. So you wanted to kill me to get revenge and take my wife, but because my wife didn't use the medicine, you came here to confess, so you wouldn't go mad, Haruna said, glaring at him. Yes, I wanted revenge. My life was ruined, but yours was just beginning. I wanted to destroy your life. But now I regret it deeply. Please forgive me, Umaru said as he knelt down. After everything Umaru said, my husband forgave him. He even gave Umaru some money when he left. But Haruna was still angry with me. He didn't talk to me at all. He told me to pack my things and leave his house. I refused and begged him, but he wouldn't listen. My family came to plead with him, but he remained firm. I decided to do something drastic. I came up with a plan. I asked a lawyer to prepare fake divorce papers. So, you've finally decided to leave the house? Haruna asked when he saw I had packed my belongings. Weren't you the one who told me to leave? I was stubborn before, but now I've decided to listen to you since you don't want me anymore. Here are the divorce papers. Make sure to sign them, I said as I handed him the fake divorce papers and turned to leave. But before I could walk away, Haruna grabbed me and hugged me from behind. Babe, you're not going anywhere. You think I'm going to let you leave just so you can go back to Umaru? He even told me he loves you and that if I don't forgive you, he's ready to marry you. That idiot? Babe, I've forgiven you. I'm sorry for everything. You'll have to stay with your ugly husband until we grow old together. Umaru even said that's what you called me, your ugly husband. Haruna said as he tightened his arms around me. That's how Haruna forgave me, and we continued living happily together. 2 years later, I gave birth to triplets, 2 boys and 1 girl. The boys were very handsome, but the girl looked just like her father. That was the one thing I was afraid of. How could she not look like me? Why did she have to look like him? But in the end, I wasn't too worried. I just prayed that she would find true love, just like I did. The lesson of the story is that real love and loyalty come from the heart, not from looks or desires. We should not be fooled by outside beauty or short-term temptations. We must see the goodness and honesty in someone's heart. Choosing someone for their looks can cause sadness and regret. True happiness comes from love that is pure and caring, not based on looks alone.